Hello, everybody. Welcome to CW Live. My name's Chris Webb, Head of Communications. I'm delighted tonight to be joined by Terry Pullinger, our Deputy General Secretary. Welcome, Terry.
Evening, Chris. Evening,
So,
everyone.
Everyone, you would either be watching this live, you'd be watching it on a recorded basis, or you may even be listening to it on a podcast tomorrow morning. So whichever medium you are tuning in, welcome to everybody. Obviously, we had a big groundbreaking session with Terry and the CEO of Royal Mail Group, Simon Thompson, last week, which went down really, really well. Almost 50,000 views across all of our channels. That's absolutely fantastic. Loads and loads of feedback, loads of positive feedback as well. So this session, Terry was keen to sort of get back on, follow that up for a little bit, but also take general questions from the membership, where I give you the chance, as we've done historically over the last 4 or 5 years, give you the chance to question Terry about direction of the union, what's going on in negotiations, and of course what matters to you at a local level. So this is, a part to talk about the culture issue and reflections on last week, but also part, as we like to do, to be open and to engage you as a membership and let you ask anything you want of Terry as national officer. So I'm going to kick off, Terry, if I can, just by throwing right into the questions, because obviously we sort of were fresh from speaking to the members last week, and say that we had that session. It was really well viewed across both our channels and Royal Mail's. Have you got any reflections on what took place last week?
Well, I think it was absolutely a first, wasn't it, to get the CEO of the company to be prepared to do that. We nearly did it once a while ago, Chris, with Sue Wally, but she never got that far. Rico Beck decided to part company with her. But to get the CEO of the whole of the Royal Mail Group to come on unscripted and just take questions, we didn't know what the questions were going to be. It's a big move, but it was a move that we felt was necessary. We absolutely, and the new CEO is absolutely in the same place as us on culture. Previously, it was at the bottom of the agenda, culture and trust. And our opinion is it's got to be top of the agenda. If you can change the culture in Royal Mail from what it is at the moment, or it has been, then it can make a massive difference, not just a small difference, a massive difference. So, it's important that we show leadership on that. And that's what we was trying to do last week. Seeing the comments from people, it was positive. I think that went down well, that the guy was prepared to come on and sit there and take questions and answer them in the candid way that he did. So it's another positive. Chris, I understand, of course we understand the cynicism. We've been here so many times before and been let down when we've got agreements. But, you have to be optimistic. And for me, I speak as I find. So at this moment in time, we made the agreement. We're totally aligned on that agreement, right at the very top, up to the CEO, as far as I'm concerned. And what we're trying to do is make that happen and make a difference, so that we suck all the energy out of the cynicism, and people actually do say, well, this is different. Because, we've got lots of work to do. There's revisions and everything else that's going on. We are talking about change for the future. It's positive change. We're talking about growth. We're talking about recruitment, not the loss of jobs. There's not many companies or industries that are in that position at the moment. So we're in that position. It's an opportunity that's before us, and we're determined to grasp it. So no, I thought it was just a first, but a very important first initial step, I think.
I mean, following on from the session, showing, I suppose, in the positive aspect, the impact of our live sessions with our members, Terry. There was quite a substantial piece in the Financial Mail on Sunday, of which it reiterated both your and the CEO's commitment to, I think the phrase they used was, root out all forms of bullying. Obviously, as we would, that was shared around the unions, but also the members' social media channels. And there was, and you touched on this, there was a high degree of cynicism in that, and almost like, to paraphrase, I'll believe it when I see it. And I suppose, like you've just said, that lots of that is just natural, and it's based on history, and it's based on a cycle of CEOs who have maybe said some similar things. I suppose one of the questions I think lots of members are interested in is, you yourself have dealt with multiple CEOs, multiple company leaders at your time in the union. Do you feel that this leader is different? Do you feel this situation is different yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, I'll speak as I find. If you get let down on that, I'll soon tell everybody. And people have seen that side of us as well. We're not in here. We haven't fought for 4 years to then suddenly just hand over everything over because we've run out of steam. Well, we haven't. In fact, we're re-energizing ourselves on the future now, which is that's arguably there's more work going on for national officers and PE members, and there certainly will be in the field with all the revision activity. More work that was going on, more positive work than was ever going on during the dispute. That was sort of campaigning and things like that. So no, I absolutely believe, and I speak as I find, and I'm straight with people. And I'll tell you, this feels different. The conversations are different. So many things, a bit disconcerting at first because there's so many things that you do agree on. And I think what's happening is people have seen how the CEO's going out into the workplace, and I've been with him on one of those visits, and he's not walking around with managers. He's going off and talking to the people. He really wants to find out what the issues are. And when we then discuss them, when he discovers certain things, there's so many of them. I have to say, yeah, I know. That's what's been going on, or that's what hasn't happened. I know there's not enough vans. I know some of the places are not fit for purpose. I don't think people understand what our members have coped with and still delivered a fantastic service. So, the agenda for the things we want to put right grows. There's only so much you can do at any one time. There's only so much you can invest in at any one time. But the agenda constantly grows. There is so much to be done. This industry was starved of investment. And to try and get more and more out of it, I believe an adversarial, which can be perceived as bullying culture, however you want to put it, but certainly an adversarial manager versus union versus worker attitude was encouraged. That's not to say every manager's bad. I know there's good managers out there, but every bad manager gives every good manager a bad name, and it's whether it's down to managerial training, whatever it is. But the real powerhouse of this business is to have positive relationships, respect and dignity for people, empathy for people, sympathy when they make a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. We're all humans. Or when people are in a bit of bother, let's stick with our people because they've proven this year, whatever individuals may think of them, our people, as we've always said, are the best. And it shouldn't be that they are loved and appreciated and thanked on the doorstep, but then when they walk into their place of work, they feel as though there's something underneath somebody else's shoe. That's outrageous. They should have that same feeling, which would be a powerful motivator as well. I think they should have that same feeling when they walk into work. They should be genuinely appreciated and applauded for what they do. And we all work together to get the job done. That's what we want. That's what we've strove for. But we've not just fought for that. That should be there in any event, Chris. I think we've always argued that should be there. There's there's nothing more pathetic than someone who's been given a managerial title and suddenly thinks they're all powerful and they don't have to respect, they don't have to say please and thank you, they don't have to talk to people in the right way. I think it's pathetic. That's not a strong manager. A strong leader concentrates on how to motivate his people and how to look after them and make sure they're inspired every day to do what we do. That's a good strong manager, not the other side. And if they're out there, and we know there is, we know. Listen, Simon Thompson said he's not seen one as yet. But obviously, wherever he goes, everyone's on their best behaviour. You don't need the brains of Lloyd George to work that out, and I'm sure he works that out and all. And it's the same when we turn up. But we know it's out there, and those people, really and truthfully, that article in the Mail, then that should force some of these managers to have a look in the mirror. And is that you? Is it you we're talking about? Is it just a small minority? But even if it is, you look in the mirror and sort yourself out, because it ain't going to be tolerated. And that's all the initiatives we're doing now, Chris, is to really give us the proper, truthful insight as to what's going on in all of our workplaces, which is why this trust survey, get involved in it. I want to encourage people. I think we've got another 2 weeks for that to run, but do it now. Do it tonight. If you're genuine about some of the horrific stories we hear and how you want it to change and everything else, then get involved with that initiative, because that is going to give us, a view into every single unit in the country if people participate. And from there, we will build action plans. where we will come in, especially where it's ultra negative, and we will continue to do that in the future. So try and, park your cynicism, because I do believe we will prove you wrong. Absolutely, things will change, but you've got to help us with that by telling us what you think of where you work, etc. You won't be identified as an individual. It's by unit, but it gives us the platform then for us, divisional reps, regional organisers in Parcel Force. This isn't just Royal Mail letters. We know that's a massive part of our organisation, but all the other business units in fleet and engineering and etc., MDEX, etc. It's everybody, and but it gives our representatives in the field and the managers in the field at all levels an opportunity to sit down and say, well, why has this come back from that unit? We want to know why, and we want, what is the plan to change it? So if you really want change and you want it to be different, participate, fill in the survey, bring it to our attention, and there'll be action plans put in place everywhere.
Thanks, Terry. On that survey, we spoke to Royal Mail just before we come on. As you said, obviously, lots of people take their time and they're busy and they're going to get around to it. About the minute, it's at around 17% of people have filled it in, which is obviously, is too low. You've presented this, obviously yourself and Simon have been through why this survey is different. We know members have multiple ways they can do it. They can log in via the My Royal Mail website. They can do it on the Royal Mail People app, and they've got a postcard that's come to the house. They can use the QR code. So very easy to fill in, much shorter than it's been previously. Just for the members who are cynics, or it's under the coffee cup, or whatever the reason is, how important is it to support the work that the union is doing as well in terms of coming to the company and raising these issues? How important is it that the members watching tonight or listening tomorrow fill in that form and get that opinion survey back?
Yeah, I suppose it depends how lively you are around the technology. If a lot of people would do it on their phone, I would imagine, and I reckon it takes about 5 minutes. Probably take me about a quarter of an hour. I don't know, but what I'd say to people is, listen, we absolutely appreciate that people are so busy, Chris. They're under the cosh. We've still got COVID problems out there. We've still got restrictions. We've still got people who may be off sick. We've got people who may be isolating. We've still got all them same operational problems. So people are extremely busy, and they're putting in a shift every single day. So it's not the only show in town. Appreciate that, and appreciate, like I say, when someone says to you, you might think, yeah, all right, I've got to get on with this first, or I've got to do that. All I'm saying is we would encourage you to take that 5 minutes to fill it in, because it could be so important. So despite all the good work you're doing out there, and despite how busy you are, if you've got criticisms of your office or good stuff, if you think you're one of the ones that actually, why don't people work like this, for instance, then tell us on the survey, because as I say, we're not going to stop with it. Just if the turnout isn't as great as we would really want it to be, that don't mean we say we're going to stop coming, because it's no good people moaning about the situation if we present them with an opportunity to let us know what's wrong and they don't take it. So that is not not being unsympathetic about all the things you have to do and all the ag in your life, etc. But just try and find the space to do it, because this week, I would say, get it into us so that we can get a view about what's going on in your unit, good or bad.
Thanks, Terry. So let's get to some of the members' questions then. We've got loads of them coming in, which is fantastic. There's a little bit of a back and forth going through, I can see, which is great, because we always like to see you debating with each other. And Scott and a few others, actually, so 2 points to this question, have raised the question about whether we are asking for a new COVID bonus payment, so one that builds on the one that was received earlier in the pandemic. And there's a bit of back and forth which suggests from some people that the union perhaps hasn't achieved that much during the course of this pandemic. But as you see this comment I'll put up here, and this is in reply to Scott Westerman, where Shani's saying, I think we've done well through the pandemic. We got £200 for it, got a negotiated 3.6% pay rise and an hour off the working week. I think the nurses out there would think they're pretty lucky. You touched on earlier, Terry, and this is not something we do as a union, but listen, we got it within our own union. We got thousands of BT members facing compulsory redundancy, site closures. You saw last week where almost 1,000 British Gas engineers just sacked on the spot because they refused to sign up to lesser terms and conditions. Fire and rehire is rife throughout the country. Nurses being in the NHS being offered 1%. I mean, I think we'd both say this union's done a tremendous job. But what would you say, for our two questions, one, what would you say to our members who don't think perhaps the union's achieved as much as it could have in the last 12, 18 months? And also, I suppose we're always wanting more, Terry. Are we still on the lookout for, further gains from the employer in the coming months?
Well, I mean, I don't mind a membership keeping us on our toes. That's that's what they've always done. We seek their support. They back us. We represent them as best we can, and we try and get them the best deals. But I mean, you just reeled off the realities of what's going on out there. Don't forget, in the Rico back day, I think that the £200 payment later on was suggested that was your pay rise. So, and then they were talking about, minuscule pay rises. We was talking about anything up to 16,000 job losses, etc., going to be announced after Christmas and everything else. I mean, the situation's been turned on its head. So when you're negotiating, of course people, a lump sum or a reward for what they've done during the COVID is something that people would ask for. But you can't ignore what we've negotiated here for our people. 2 pay rises, another hour off the working week. We're gonna be recruiting again, so everyone's we're gonna have more people coming into the industry. That presents an opportunity for us to sort out some of these appalling resourcing situations we've had locally, where quite clearly a lot of our part-timers should have been on longer contracts, etc. And they're going to have an opportunity. There'll be first dibs for them people. Then we got people on temporary contracts who still ain't got a permanent job, who would welcome a permanent job. So, I mean, and we're talking about external recruitment again. We're talking about bringing back the postal cadets. I believe we're extremely close to getting an agreement that we would be prepared to put before people on the average holiday pay. So it's progress. We've still got on our policy, we've still got another 2 hours to achieve on a shorter working week. So will the union be constantly asking or trying to ensure that the people are fully rewarded? Of course we will. That's what we do for our members. So we'll be back in pay talks, won't we, next year? But I mean, over the course of the last 4 years where we've been in dispute, and the magnificent support people have given us, we've not taken one day of industrial action, and yet we've got pay deals all the way through it. I think it tots up to about 16% in terms of pay, with the 2 hours off the shorter working week, etc. I've got to be honest with you, Chris, I don't think anyone's got near it. So it's not for us to come on here and, I mean, I don't want to feel like we're boasting. And then, I mean, my wife works for the NHS, so she's a nurse. So, what do you think she thinks when we're having this conversation and I'm giving it large? We have achieved that for our union strength. But to try and dish that and say this union ain't represented its members or protected its members, I'm sorry, I absolutely and fundamentally disagree with the people who say that. You're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to hold us to account. You're entitled to keep us on our toes, and please do. But you really have to explore the realities of what's going on around us and what we have achieved for our members. So at the moment, we're sitting here and it's all positive, and we can make negative comments and we can have a criticism, while in the other side of our house on BT, people are fighting for their lives there. They're getting compulsory redundancies. They're about to battle it. They've got the same sort of aggressive CEO coming at them as we had during the 4 pillars. And we all know that's a really tough place. And there was no one then talking about, big pay rises or shorter working week or anything else. So do we always believe you deserve more? Yeah, of course. That's how we go into every set of negotiations. But this business needs to be successful. At the start of last year, this company was running at a loss. It's not now. It's profitable. There were shareholders trying to make moves on us because of that, because they want to cash in on their money. We're talking about splitting up the company, selling GLS. Look what they wanted to do to Parcel Force. I mean, I see people criticising, you never mention Parcel Force. Twice we've saved Parcel Force from certain death. A few years ago, when we were government owned, they were going to get rid of it. They didn't think there was a future for Parcel Force. This union saved it. In this latest dispute, what Rico Beck and his team wanted to do with Parcel Force, we saved it again. So accusations like we don't care about Parcel Force, members as well. It's in my opinion, you're entitled to yours, and I don't mind a straighten up about that, and we'll shake hands afterwards. But we're a democratic organisation. But I think you're either you're not well informed about what's going on around us and how this business needs to move forward, or you think you want a bigger slice than is possible for even the strongest union to try and achieve for you. So I think what we've got stands up as a trade union. I think we can be very proud of it. And I know we have only got that because of the strength of our membership. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had that. So don't do yourself down suggesting this union ain't done very well, because I just think history will demonstrate to you that this union's done brilliantly, but only because, as we've always said, listen, we don't get what we deserve. We get what we negotiate, but only if we negotiate from a position of strength. You gave us the strength, and we negotiated far better deals than people anticipated.
Thanks, Terry. Fantastic answer, and received a lot of response to that from the chat. If you're enjoying this session, you can help us by sharing the link, tagging your work colleagues, getting the message out there, because obviously the more people that see and listen to this, the better. Also, quite a few delivery questions that I can see that I know were answered by Mark Boach in a podcast we put out last week. So if you get a chance, just when Terry's finished the session here today, have a look back, have a listen to that podcast, and I'll make sure that the team put it in the comments so you can have easy possible access to that. Because Mark and I talked for over an hour through loads and loads of delivery related content. Terry, we said we take a range of questions. There's a guy called Darren who, funnily enough, the reason I'm asking this question is I've seen him ask it here, but he also emailed it in advance, and it sounds as if he's pretty desperate, and I know you'd want to help him. He was a shielding employee throughout the pandemic, and obviously there was an announcement from Royal Mail that people would lose their leave entitlement who were shielding, but he's saying that he's also lost the leave that he paid for. So he paid like £700 for additional leave, and Royal Mail have taken it off and said he can't have his £700 back. I just wondered, I mean, obviously maybe that's one we have to pass, get back to him on or whatever, but if you had an initial view, and I wanted to ask because he's really tried to get through to us today. Yeah,
well, what I would say is that the sort of detail on that stuff, obviously Cole Maiden deals with that in his department, and has been bashing away at those issues, trying to get the best deals for our members all the way through the pandemic. So I don't know the details about that, but it doesn't seem right to me that if you buy a week's leave, I would have thought that is yours, and it's for you to determine what you do with it. But I'm presuming what if you didn't take that week's leave, I'm presuming they'd say you'd be on no pay, is what I'm presuming they would say to you. But you certainly should have a say in that. I don't think that should just be dictated to you. But to be fair, there's no point waffling it, Chris. That sort of would be better directed at Cole. Really, would probably answer it far better than I can.
Yeah, no worries. Just to let you know, Darren, once we close the session, I'll forward your email, which you sent in to Carl, as Terry said there for you, mate. So loads more. Another question, Terry, which I think you can answer straight away, is some people are asking about the pay rise. I understand that's in wage packets this Friday, backdated to the beginning of the month. Is that right?
Yep, backdated. That's in the original statement, backdated to the 1st of April. Yeah.
Yeah, the easy one. And lots of our part-time members as well. Mark talked quite a bit about this, and so did yourself and Simon last week. But lots of part-time members as well who are saying, they've given really, positive service throughout the pandemic and prior to that, and they want additional hours. They've been working overtime, and they're looking, just do the revisions, give them the opportunity to perhaps progress, which Mark Boach last week gave an emphatic yes to. But I suppose the question to you, as a leader of the organisation, on behalf of the union, is that something you're encouraging as well, is to get out there and increase the amount of full-timers within our industry, give part-timers more sort of certainty? Is that an ambition of yours?
Well, we've been encouraging that all the time, Chris, for years now. I mean, the company previously went out unagreed and was offering people redundancy, full-timers. They let them go and they just replaced it with part-timers. And that's bedeviled us ever since in terms of resourcing. And they were wrong to do that. And it's just another signpost of the very poor management of this organisation going back over the last few years. We get the blame for everything, don't we, from shareholders or opinion formers everywhere. But actually, it's been incredibly badly managed. And on resourcing, absolutely. So in 2018, we tried to address that. And some of this is in our gift, Chris, I have to say to everyone here, because I'll only be honest here. If a part-time member is regularly doing extra hours or is doing it all the time, for instance, it's meant to be reviewed every 6 months. But in between that, you can argue for a variation of contract. You can argue for it to be an SA, in which case that would all count towards their holiday pay, etc., etc. And we could have been doing that over the last couple of years. Now, management would have been reluctant to do that in our dispute mode, but there's no reason why they couldn't have been disagreements. So, drawing a line on that, we have absolutely raised the profile and the case of part-timers in these talks. We're working on a resourcing joint statement now because we are going to be in a recruitment situation. And I'll tell you now, in that joint statement, what we'll be looking for there is when there's a revision locally or there's recruitment before that, because there's so bad in the number of people working there, there's no freeze on recruitment now. But the first people, if there's hours to be, if we're recruiting against hours, the first port of call should be our part-timers if they want to increase their hours to full-time or whatever hours are available, if they want an increase in their contract. So we're saying they should be first in the pecking order. Then it should be people on a temporary contract. And then we would look to go external if we still need to recruit people in. So, and we're also, I said to you about the talks we're having on the average holiday pay. We're also talking about specific arrangements in there for part-timers where we will once again promote the issue of people having a variation of contracts, even if it's temporary, but to ensure you get the proper money you should be getting, and especially when you go on annual leave.
Thanks, Terry. I've got one of our Angard members has said that they are still being denied access to fill out the trust survey. I understood that Royal Mail would, I'm trying to see if you understand the same. We're looking at this and we're trying to resolve it before the close of the survey to make sure that agency people and members were able to fill that survey. Is that true?
Well, no, I don't remember us talking about our agency members filling it in, Chris. So this is more about, I suppose, Royal Mail employees, Royal Mail Group employees. I have been told, I don't know how true it is, I have been told, though, that some agency workers have just been scanning the code. Yeah. You think people have been scanning it and have been participating, some of the agency workers. But no, I don't remember us specifically saying that the Angard members would get it. This isn't like a CWU survey. This is a joint CW and Royal Mail Group survey of Royal Mail Group employees. I'm
sure Royal Mail will be watching and take an interest in the session. You can have a look at that one and see if you can pick that one up for us. Tam Dewar, our divisional rep up in Scotland, has said now about 10 times in this session, so I'm going to have to ask it now, Tam. He said it would be great to see you and Simon in Scotland, see where the areas are improving, which is great. Also seeing where Royal Mail are refusing to engage. He said, you promise you won't be stranded due to snow again. So is that a visit you're up for making, Terry?
Yeah, of course, and we will. We are now getting back on the road, and you've got to work it out, but not necessarily. I don't mind doing a joint visit, but can I only come if I've got a CEO with me? Then can't I come on my own? I'm more than happy to come on my own. But no, Tam, there'll be a number of sites that we'll visit jointly, but there'll also be a number of sites we'll visit individually. And there is no-go area, whether it's Scotland or Wales or Cornwall or anywhere else. So, yeah, it's no problem, mate. We'll have to see who's laying on the best offer in hospitality.
We'll start a bidding war now in the comments. One of the questions, and it's coming up, it came up in your session with Simon Thompson, came up in the podcast with Mark Boach, and it's coming up again tonight. And I think, both yourself and Mark had commented that there's different groups of members fall into different divides on this. Is lots of people saying, when are we getting back to van share post-COVID? Lots of people saying, hopefully we're not getting back to van share, are we? So we got two trains of questions coming at you there, so for you to pick your way through what's the best route, Terry.
Yeah, well, you should tell me what the numbers are. Who do you try and please on this one? No, it's we've always had people that might not, would have preferred to have gone out on their own rather than shared vans. Obviously, the COVID situation meant no shared vans. we are meeting with the business, and certainly the operational officers are meeting with the business and looking at what is the plan going to be, the plan to come out of COVID. And also, of course, we have to anticipate if we had a spike somewhere, anywhere in the country at any particular time with the different strands of COVID that are coming out, how we would deal with that as well. But, on a positive note, what we're really now looking at is the footprint for coming out of COVID, which would mean, no social distancing, which would mean 2 back in a van. But what we also acknowledge is it will create a problem, not just people who would rather not go 2 back in a van, but the problem will be exposed about the size of the vans, because with the amount of parcels now that have come in, which has been really positive in terms of the finances of the company and everything else, I think there's a big question mark now over what size vans should we be having. You've heard, I think people probably heard the CEO saying there's so many vans off the road. We've got so many vans that are like over 10 years old. And this is another area that hasn't had the proper investment. But investment going forward, I think it's got to ensure that we've got the right size vans. And it's different places, very rural or whatever, it may be okay. But I think we're going to have a bigger variation of vans and a lot more bigger vans, would be my opinion. So who knows? Maybe you'll end up 4 going out in a van.
That pleases nobody. So you got to the right place, Terry.
I'm teeing that up for Mark Boss. That's all.
One of the things, obviously, sometimes when we're on these sessions, and this is, it's good that we've obviously come on and followed up the session last week, but the pace of those sessions that when you do the big ones with the CEO or the big ones before an industrial action ballot that we've done as well, is that sometimes we can take a little bit more time during these sessions to pick out some of our smaller groups of members. And we've had quite a few people who are, we'll start with our rural members, rural delivery and SPDO, saying, does the union do as much for them as it should do? I suppose the flip side would be that, the deal speak for itself in that sense. But people, there was a comment from one of our SPDO members saying that their manager said that the hour off the working week is totally unworkable and they wouldn't be getting it in their SPDO. For examples, there's a few SPDO members asking, are they getting as much from this love from this union as they should have, Terry?
Yeah, that individual's quite frankly talking crap. It's for everybody, and there's no excuse for saying that we can't find a solution for the shorter working week. And in fact, whoever that person is, they're going to have big trouble because we've got another 2 hours to come at some point. So, and we're determined to have that, the 35-hour week. And I think we've said before that enables all sorts of duty patterns, inventive duty patterns. It may be that we have people on 3 or 4 day weeks, that sort of stuff. It doesn't change the workload. You just need the right resource to cover the workload, don't you? So, as for rurals, I was a rural postman myself. I loved it being a rural postman. Other people were in my office used to want the town. I always liked it personally, but so it's not as if we don't care about rurals. That's absolutely not true. I keep repeating to people, there is absolutely nowhere we're not going to go. So everything about this business needs to be uplifted and needs to be promoted. All the good that it does. And a lot of that good will come from people in rural areas, customers in rural areas. They're the ones who, this is where this business goes the extra mile compared to some of our competitors. We go everywhere, don't we? Every single address in the country. No one else does that. So, and many of them, the other companies don't want to go to is because it wouldn't cost in for them. It's not profitable enough for them. And that's why the universal service and what we do is so unique, still special, and has got to be re-energized, as is already said, so that we still got a postal service that I believe is the envy of the world. And all we're doing now is shaping it for a next generation. The intention is it absolutely remains as it is, but we're certainly not leaving any of our rural members or any other member out of the benefits that we achieve. So some of the big conversations you have in negotiations is, the vast majority of our members work in Royal Mail letters. That's always been the case. And of course, if Royal Mail letters collapse, then other businesses would collapse if they were spun off. So there has to be a reality to the fact. But in them negotiations, what we never do is leave anyone else behind. So as well as concentrating on the mass of our members in Royal Mail letters, we always, and look at our agreements, we always deal with all our other members as well at the same time. So, you know, there's never, as far as I'm concerned, I never see that where we've forgotten someone or left them behind. That's not what we do, and we won't be doing it in the future. You're on mute, Chris.
I was muted because we'd lost connection on one of the pages, so I was reinstalling it. So we're all good, we're all back. So yeah, if you lost us for a second there, then obviously the recording will flow through afterwards. Please keep sharing, keep liking, etc. Another minority, smaller group of our members, Terry, is our cleaners. Quite a few cleaners, lots of love for them in the comments, which is fantastic, and I know what you'd want to see. They've done a tremendous job. You know, often, you know, where our members have had to, postal members have had to leave the office for deep cleans and stuff like that. It's been our cleaning members that have gone in and put themselves on the front line. And our cleaning members are saying that, you know, they want more information. They would like, you know, more communication with the union, lots of support for the union amongst their comments. But they're saying, would you have a word or two to our cleaning membership about their sort of efforts over the pandemic?
Well, they've been fantastic. They always are. I think what they've been the victims of is people constantly cutting back on cost. And I often tell the story. I can remember when I first come into Royal Mail, you know, you'd walk into our offices and the floor was always gleaming. It always had that sort of smell about it, a bit like school, you know, the polish everywhere. And it was like that every day. And I think it's a lot to do with culture and morale as well. I've had this conversation with the CEO. I think we need to up our cleaning schedules. I think we need more cleaners. And we absolutely need to recognise the cleaners that we've got there, because I do feel over the years they've probably been pushed further and further back. More and more cleaners have gone. Their schedules of cleaning have fallen back, which, you know, can have an impact on them, take away some of the pride that they had in the job. And once again, they've stepped up during this COVID, and everyone appreciates what they've done. But it's about time we started seriously showing that to them. Rewarding them, of course, but also I think looking at cleaning schedules, because I think we should go back to, you know, when you walk in your place of work, it is spotless, and it's not, you know, these are professional places. We're using the latest technology when we've got handheld technology coming in. You keep renewing all that stuff, keep renewing your vans. There's some basic stuff, to be honest with you, it has to be invested in, but can make a major difference, and that's walking into a place and it is spotless. So I remember on the culture visits just after the 4 Pillars Agreement, a couple of places that I went to, I did about 6 visits, and we had divisional reps and managers doing joint visits all out, you know, in about 50 or 60 offices. But one of the things that stood out to me was, quite frankly, things like the toilets and the stuff that our members are having to use. It was unacceptable. You know, you wouldn't put up with it at home, and they shouldn't put up with it at work. There was not enough emphasis put into the cleanliness and the decor of a lot of our places. Now, we may not be able to, lots of our offices are not fit for purpose. We're not going to be able to change them overnight. You have to have a plan for that. You know, it could cost billions of pounds, but there's things that we can do. We can certainly, you know, freshen these places up and keep them spotlessly clean. And from my point of view, that's a conversation that we continue to push. What those people do for us, you know, all the other members, our cleaning members, they always stand with this trade union. And what they do, their best efforts to keep it as clean as they can, and how they've stepped up to some of the demands of the cleaning schedules under COVID is nothing short of fantastic. Absolute fair play to them.
Thanks, Terry. I'll put myself through. We've got lots and lots more questions. Just trying to think through what was rather amusing. Here's one for you from Lynette. Collins asks if you like cheese scones. She'll make you some if you visit us. So that's the bidding war you've started now, Terry. We're going to have pasties, and we're going to have haggis, and we're going to have scouse. We're going to have all sorts of stuff going on here, aren't we?
You know, some of them, Lynette, my body's a temple, mate. I've just started a diet, so you've just got in at the wrong time there. But maybe.
Our Parcel Force members, Terry, you know, another group of workers really close to your heart, having represented them for such a significant period directly, and then obviously, you know, since you've been DGSP as well. You know, what a word for them, because lots of them are asking for updates. And I think the other thing to say to members, obviously, is we're looking to do these sessions with the national officers, with Davey, with Mark, with Andy and Carl. So, like, you know, that you will get your chance to ask direct questions. But there's big changes in Parcel Force, that, the revision process and the changes. What would your message to our members in that area be?
Well, we've been there before, haven't we? The reality was Parcel Force was once again getting itself into difficulty after many years of when we did Apollo. For those that worked in Parcel Force then, it was losing £200 million a year, and that's why the government was going to get shot of it. We changed it into an express and next day company. It took us about 3 years to get it back into profit, and from there it went from strength to strength. But in the last couple of years, with all the other parcel providers that are out there, and most of them haven't got directly employed people, well, in fact, all of them, I think. So they've all got them cheap labour models, bogus self-employed, that sort of things that puts Parcel Force. There's no USO in Parcel Force. It's direct competition. It puts a real strain on Parcel Force being able to maintain its profit, maintain its contracts. Our people are fantastic, and that's why a lot of contracts still stay with us in Parcel Force, because I would say that we're the best. And I suppose the balance is the changes we have to make in Parcel Force. They've got to be done in such a way to take the people with us, and that's everyone's intention, as far as I can see. I know how hard Davey Robertson works on that, and keeps that legacy going in terms of Parcel Force. But there will be change. There's going to be lots of change in Royal Mail. There's revisions going on everywhere, so no one can avoid the change. Because, listen, if people don't think the dynamic has changed in the last year, then again, then they're not really thinking about it. But there's no reason. We're optimistic. There could still be a Parcel Force. Don't forget, it wouldn't have been here if the union hadn't stood with it. It would have been sold off by now and gone. And I think then you'd have seen people redundancies, and you would have seen owner drivers or bogus self-employed brought in, etc. So we saved Parcel Force, but it was on the basis that we have to address the issue of its profitability, and that's what's going on. So we did it all them years ago. There's no reason why we can't do it now. Again, we're not accepting any compulsory redundancies. We're not doing anything that. We're trying to work with the people, but it's life now, isn't it? You can't. No business, Parcel Force or Royal Mail, we're all privately owned. We're not public now. We're not publicly owned. And whenever that runs to a position where it could be running at a loss, you've got big trouble. And then people want to make radical changes to try and quickly reverse that decision. We've got ourselves back in the place where the finances are back in a stronger position than they were, and we've got to build on that now, not take it backwards by just ignoring the obvious threats that are in front of us. That's not a way to protect our members, is ignoring that, and then they end up a couple of years down the line, you're losing your job and things like that. That's not our game. We think forward, don't we? We're protecting jobs. We want to increase jobs. So, yeah, Parcel Force has got to have a new plan. It's got to be refreshed like it was before. So has Royal Mail, and that's what's going on, Chris.
Thanks, Terry. Kerry Woolnough, I'm asking this question primarily because you've asked it several times. Kerry, she's complaining about the fact that Labour, as in the Labour Party, leaflets have been in the office, her office this week as door-to-doors. I'm sort of getting the feeling, Kerry, that you're complaining partially because you don't want to deliver Labour Party leaflets, but also because you don't think they should be door-to-doors. But my understanding, Terry, is the parties in elections were given an allowance on direct mailing. Is that right?
Yeah, I think when there's elections going on, Chris, we have to deliver for all parties. So there's plenty of them we wouldn't want to deliver, I would imagine, equally. But and there's proper arrangements and agreements for that in place. So that's why they're there. But I would say to everybody as well, it's still work. We are not. I keep emphasising this. We are not in the game of turning away work, whatever that work is. That is not the way to not only reinvent Royal Mail and make sure it's here for future generations, but equally that's not the way to protect our terms and conditions, our pensions, our jobs, everything else. We've still got employment, standard living and retirement security. Have a look around us. There ain't many people that have got that now. We have still got that. We've protected it after 4 years of disputes. We've protected it on the basis we got an agreement to build on the policies that we had. They were our policies to grow this business and embrace the change, but on the basis that our people are properly rewarded and they got employment security, they got proper pensions, all that sort of stuff. So, we might not like little bits and pieces of work. We might not like the days we have to deliver it on, But we can't put ourselves in a position that we're turning away work, which then could lead to other contracts being lost, and then could mean people losing their jobs. That ain't our game, and that's not what we're going to do.
Thanks, Terry. I mean, a couple of you asking about van sharing, by the way, just to let you know, if you just join us, we've already covered that topic and many, many more. As soon as we close the live, you'll be able to watch it all back, and Terry picks up that subject matter and lots of others in great detail. One of the things that's coming up, Terry, and I don't know if you think these two things are related, is the issue of bullying and equal amounts of people talking about lapsing and having to take out additional work and having to almost firefight on a daily basis. I mean, and I suppose that's been like amplified with the pandemic, the increase in parcels and the pressure in the workplace, social distancing, etc. I mean, do you think there's a link between those two things? And would you like to see us move towards a place where lapsing was a thing of the past?
Yeah, on both, really. In terms of bullying, I suppose it's whatever someone's perception is of being bullied. But on the issue of lapsing and absorption, don't forget that came about as a product of huge dips in traffic, and people might have only had I don't know, a couple of hours work or etc. I mean, you've got to be gainfully employed, isn't it? It's a fair day's work with a fair day's pay. So our traffic was fluctuating too much. Bit different now because we've got all the parcels and stuff coming in. I think more latterly, over the last few years, it's been more a product, as I've already said, to Bob resourcing. You know what I mean? Where the resource in the office isn't right. The amount of full-timers and part-timers you need isn't right. You're operating with no reserves and things like that. So as soon as you get some people off sick or someone takes leave, there's this big call for lapsing and absorption. We had to deal with this in Parcel Force, and our way we dealt with it back in the days, I don't know how it's dealt with now, was even if you've not got much work that day and someone asks you to take a bit of work, what makes sense is to take a bit of work like next to you or within the vicinity that you work. I think what really puts people out, and it would have put me out as a postman, I'd be on that absolutely, is when someone says to you, you come in the morning and you think you're going to do your walk, which you're very familiar with, which you know how to prep quite quickly and get organised and you know where everything is. And then someone says to you, by the way, no, you're going over the other side of the town. But they don't even ask you in the right way. They just tell you and say it's a reasonable request. There's none of this, can anyone help out? We've got this problem and all that sort of, the approach is all wrong for a start in a lot of the complaints I hear. But also there seems to be a complete lack of empathy of when you do that, then by definition, the ability for you to make a mistake is greater in terms of the prep. The ability for your productivity to be less is greater because you're not familiar with that walk, you're not familiar with a frame, etc. And I think where the bullying bit comes in, Chris, is people are, if they have to do it, they don't like doing it, but if they have to do it, they then also got the psychological problem of knowing they could easily make a mistake and they're not going to get done today because it's going to take them longer to prep, and they will come under some sort of discipline as a consequence, because that's the sort of thing that's happened. Not empathy. Listen, I understand you ain't to be able to do it like you do your other job, etc. There's none of that, is there? And that's the emotional intelligence bit that's so lacking from some of the people who call themselves managers and leaders in the workplace. Because to me, having been a postman, I absolutely, all them years ago, but I can still remember if I was asked to do a different walk when I first come in and I didn't know the frame, it is a form of stress, isn't it? Because everyone else is going out the door and you're still stood there trying to work it out and things like that. So it's about training, it's about familiarisation. We don't have rotates no more, so people are by and large on their own job. We're told that you should create this great bond with the public and the trust on the doorstep and everything else. But all of that is at risk if we're moving people uneconomically and unnecessarily just because we haven't got the resourcing right. If these revisions get the resourcing right, then there's no reason why that shouldn't drop. In my opinion, the resourcing should ensure that you're not forever moving people every other day. And I don't know if it is every other day, but where I've been and spoke to people, that has been their biggest complaint. In fact, when we were doing the 2018 agreement and we was in that dispute, we had management were telling us that was the main reason that people were back in the union because they didn't like lapsing and absorption, and they were promising to get rid of it. So it needs a real lot of thought to it, because it definitely throws people out. It's definitely something people don't like. I think if you have to do it, it's got to be done in a way that you don't massively affect productivity, or you can't expect people to do the same as they would have done on their other job. There's got to be more understanding. But the real answer to it, if you want the best productivity, the best relationships on the doorstep, then you've got to try and let people sort of own their walk in that sense. You know what I mean? Because the night, I know what it's like. The night before, you're thinking about going into work the next day, etc. What you're going to do, what you ain't going to do, and then suddenly it's turned on its head, because you're not just asked to take a bit of the walk next to you. You're asked to go right over the other side of the office, which geographically could be an area that you're totally unfamiliar with. So, because let's be honest, when people come into Royal Mail these days, the training ain't been fantastic. It's gone more and more back to if you can steam up the mirror, and it ain't good enough. The training ain't better. We used to have like 2 weeks of training. We are professionals, postal workers. I will always argue that. We are professionals, and we should be able to conduct ourselves with pride. And there hasn't been enough pride in the job, and that's because of the way things have been done in the workplace. Whether it's resourcing, whether it's moving people around, it's a nothing job. Like no disrespect to a labourer, but you don't need a skill set. Well, of course you do. Of course you do. And we should play that up. We should have proper training. We should be proud to be postal workers. My opinion, I say this to people all the time, Chris, and I mean it. I really mean it. As far as I'm concerned, our people are warriors, mate. All weather, COVID, everything. They proved it year on year on year. They still deliver. And it's disrespectful treating people like that in the workplace. It's uneconomic. It's unproductive, and there needs to be a different answer to it. I know you can't get paid for 7 hours work and only do 2 hours. I think we're big believers. Fair days work with fair days pay. But some of this stuff that's gone on is a result of inadequate resourcing and all the other things that have not been done right. It's not just about the issue itself. In my opinion, you treat people right, they will always help you out. If you treat people right, you're the manager and you treat people right, and you say, listen, you couldn't do me a favour today. I understand you ain't to like it, and I understand it might take you longer, but can you help us? We're proper in lumber. If you're treating people right, you will get people that'll help you out.
Spot on. Thank you, Terry. So there's a few more questions coming in. Obviously, I said it earlier on that some of you must have missed Terry's answers earlier on. I've also just put the link to the delivery podcast. Once we finish this session, I really would recommend this. Mark, Boach, and I talk about revision processes, part-time to full-time, the culture and delivery offices, new equipment, and a really wide range of subjects, everything delivery. So please, check that one out, delivery members. So last couple of questions for you, Terry, before I ask you to sum up. One I know you picked up last week, but it's been asked several times tonight, and that is the issue of holiday pay, and people asking for a quick update on that from you.
Yeah, well, I've said we're very close, I think, to an agreement, Chris, or an agreement that a negotiators' agreement we're prepared to put to the executive and put to the members. It's been we've been trying since 2015 for this agreement, and we got one that I think is fair, and will certainly be worth recommending and testing there. The biggest argument's always been about regular, whether you're doing regular overtime. And in all the cases that have been settled, that has to be based over some sort of reference period to demonstrate, suitable to that particular industry, to demonstrate that you're doing regular overtime. So as you would imagine, we've tried to make it as fair as possible and as realistic as possible, given the amount of overtime we tend to do in Royal Mail. Trying to avoid the sun there. That we do in Royal Mail. And also the fact if we get resourcing right and everything else, might not be the same degrees of overtime, but I think that pretty much it's always sort of sustained itself in Royal Mail. So I can't really give the detail yet, because that wouldn't be right. We're hoping, if not this week, then the week after, we're hoping to have something that we can put to the executive on the principles of this agreement. And if that's acceptable, it'd be a case of working out and agreeing what the back pay would be, because we certainly won't do an agreement unless there's an element of back pay to it. And then, hopefully we'll move forward. It'll be another big issue that we've moved forward.
Thanks, Terry. I'm going to slip it two more questions. I'm going to slip an additional one. So I told you a mistruth when I said there was two more. One more before we go on to the final one, then, because it's a really good point actually raised by one of our members, Tony Brown, who says there's like so many questions, obviously from so many different members, that you can only take so many, which is true. We're only here for an hour, and he's saying, how about we do more of these on a regional and branch basis? And you and I know we were talking about this before we went live. Would you be encouraging our branches, our area reps, our divisions and regions to be doing this type of forum and taking questions live or on a recorded basis?
Yeah, sorry about it.
It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what we said. This is only the start of it, Chris. So if we ask specific questions and if they're tailored to whatever it is we're trying to address in a workplace, there's no reason why we can't do it regionally, divisionally, area, local. We can use it for all sorts of things. So that's what we're looking to do. If we're confident that it is authentic and it does give you genuine answers, if our confidence grows on that, then we're seeing this is a tool we can use. We can either do it quarterly within Royal Mail with even less questions. This one is this one's got slightly more questions because it's replacing the employee opinion survey, which I don't think anyone had any particular confidence in that would make a difference. So this one's replacing that. We've got it down to, I think, about 21 questions. But I think next time we do it, and if we do it quarterly, it could have even less questions. So we can continually drill down. We've got to have some sort of mechanism. We can't visit every single office in this country every week or every month. I mean, you'd probably be traveling for the next year. We've got so many workplaces and everything else. But what we can do, we can get into workplaces by this sort of thing, videos, and get information down to people if they care to watch. But these surveys is also another way of us saying, we truly want to understand every workplace. So even if it's at rural, SPDO, whatever, they will be participating in it, and it will identify your small rural office. So let us know. Fill it in and tell us what your problems are, and that's how we can address the problems everywhere. So yes, if it's successful, all the time we believe it's authentic and it is giving genuine answers to the problems or the good things that we're trying to understand in the workplace, then there's no reason why we can't use it for many variations of the theme, Chris. Absolutely.
Thank you, Terry. So I'm delighted that over 9,500 of you have joined us at 5 o'clock on a Monday afternoon. So that's fantastic. I'm sure Terry will be pleased with that, as I am. At this time of the session, one of the things we always try and do is, get a reaction from you in the comments. If we're balloting for industrial action, we ask you if you're voting yes. If you're fighting, if you're with your union, we ask you to put CW and proud in the comments. That's what I'm going to ask you today. And I always try and, when I put the sort of last question to Terry and the other officers, to make it one that relates to that comment. So if you're proud to be a union member, then please put CW and proud in the comments now, and we'll share the best of those on screen. And I think that links very nicely to something we can all be extremely proud of, which is the CDC pension scheme. And we've had quite a lot of people, Terry, asking if you can give an update on that to members as your final question.
Yeah, it's not dissimilar like I give last time. The timescales, Chris, are frustrating because we're still in the process of things that have to go through government and the pensions regulator. So, and one of the things that's different with our scheme, when the DC scheme was originally set up, it had no members in it. So, but the difference with our scheme, it's going to have 160,000 people go straight into it. So, there's plenty of things there that we're sort of making history on. As you know, it's gone through the Queen's speech, so it's happening. There's no question that it's happening. It's going through its secondary sort of legislation now. We then have to get authority from the regulator. So the regulator now is also working with the Department of Work and Pensions to put their 2 pence in. And obviously at some point we have to go to them and with our scheme, and they give authority for it. And we've been working with these people all the way through, so we're not anticipating a major problem with that. But we're told that's either going to be the latter part this year or the first quarter of next year, Chris. So, it seems like a long time, and we had a lot of lost years, didn't we? 2 years of Brexit, no government operating more or less, etc. But it's definitely happening. It's definitely happening. If it isn't the latter part of this year, it'll be the first quarter of next year. And as I say, when it opens, that'll be something absolutely special for all of us in this union, because it's another thing that just wouldn't have happened with all of the magnificent support we get of our members. No way would it have happened. But as it turns out, we're going to make history, and all those, especially as we're in a recruitment situation now, Chris, and we're going to be offering more jobs to people. These will be people that are coming in and going to be going into a pension scheme like no other business is offering. Anywhere you go now, you'd be walking into probably a seriously inadequate DC scheme. Is the only real show in town for any new employment. And we particularly want to focus in on young people now. So in terms of like the apprenticeship, we're in talks about, the CEO said, we've already said we're going to bring back the postal cadet scheme. We have to sit down with the Department of Education for that, or Ofsted, because there has to be, if you leave school between 16 and 18, you have to have still have education attached to it. Another con, in my opinion, is just keeping people off the dole queue. Some people are ready to leave at 16, aren't they? And go and do a job. But we bring that scheme back. We're going to target bringing young people in. Imagine that, when your son or your daughter comes in and they've just managed to get one of these jobs with Royal Mail, just leaving school, and they say all the benefits, they say what the wages are for a start. I tell you, look at the wages for a 17, 18-year-old in Royal Mail compared to most youngsters. The fact that they're going to have a pension scheme and everything else that goes with it, got a trade union looking after them. I think most parents would be delighted and say, look after that job, because you've got security in there, and it may not feel like it when you're young, but that is extremely valuable to have. So, and that's what we're creating, as I say, and they will, in years to come, they will benefit from the fight we had and all our members had, and the pension scheme that we managed to get out of it.
Thanks, Terry. Fantastic. Got quite a flood of questions from Parcel Force members on the issue of Rex at the end there. Just to let you know, we're going to have a session, and we're going to record a podcast with National Officer Davy Robertson on that. And as John Meehan rightly pointed out, if you've got any questions on that, you can see your regional organiser or your local rep in the intervening period. Whilst, Terry, I'm just going to ask you now to sum up for a minute or two, any final messages you want to get across to the members, and what all those of you who are watching. We've just hit the 10,000 mark, which is fantastic. If you have enjoyed the session, let us know. And if you want more of these type of Q&As, let us know that as well. But from myself, it's good evening. I'm just going to hand the final word over to Terry.
Yeah, first thing is, I don't think I've ever had a cheese scone. I've just been thinking about it. I don't think I've ever had one. The other thing I wanted to say is about the article in the Daily Mail, because when you and apologise for this sunlight, by the way, but when you do these things like the live Q&A, and this is why it was quite a brave thing to do, I think, for the CEO of this company, is what we didn't realise. That article came about of the Daily Mail watching our Q&A, watching the video. So you really are putting yourself out there, and we must remember that's not just within our own organisation. Anybody can get to see these things or see the videos or come on our sites and things like that. So I think it was really significant that the CEO was prepared to do that. I think sending the really strong message to the shareholders. We've got the shareholder AGM coming up, to the shareholders and other opinion formers, because the biggest question outside of our organisation is actually very similar to the one we're getting back from a lot of our members. What is different this time? Why is it going to be different? Then people are asking the same questions. So these things that are unique that we're doing, it's not because they're a one-off. It's because it's absolutely important that people realise that this is different and this is genuine. And we are absolutely going to protect our people, protect this great public service, and build it for the next generation and grow it. And in doing that, we will take on different work. We will have different hours, different days, but it's all work, and it will all create jobs for people that can come in, decent working people come into a decent job with all the benefits we get. Don't dismiss them benefits. I know how hard the job is, and we've all been there, and there's days you really want to kick off and you've had enough, and there's days, but I just urge you, think about it. Don't take it for granted what we've got. Talk to your friends, especially now it's going to open up and you're going to be able to get out socialising just reconnect with them people and ask them about their jobs and what they're doing and what they do and what they don't get. So this is all to play for, Chris. I think this is our agreement, which everyone said was a great agreement, and everyone was supportive of it. This is us taking that agreement. We are honouring that agreement. We want to take it forward, and we will hold Royal Mail and anyone else to account if they try to go back on, renege on that agreement again and go back to for what we were fighting the last 4 years with people who never had ambition for Royal Mail as the great public service as it is, never had an intention of building upon that, but rather had the intention of stripping it back just to be some massive parcel company with international connections. That's not where we are now. So, you know, just reflect on that and remember where we were, what we fought for, what we've now got. And if people come at us again, we stand again, don't we? But I'm very optimistic. I absolutely believe this is different, but we've got to do our bit as well. All of us, our members and reps, we've got to do our bit. It's a tough world out there. There's people lining up against us in the form of shareholders and investors and everything else. And I think we've got to get them people into a place where they realise, and customers, that if they use our members, if they come with Royal Mail, then actually by being associated with us, it makes them look better. It makes their companies better when they say Royal Mail are delivering our products or Royal Mail are doing this for us, because we're such a special organisation. And if we're special on the doorstep and we're special in the workplace, then I tell you now, the vibe will be tremendous, and those companies will be in that position. And that's what it's all about. Let's get the work in, protect the public service, protect you, the members. Nothing changes. That is always our remit, and we're not going to sell you down a river and never have to.
Thanks, Terry. That's fantastic. And so firstly, to say thank you for you, Terry, because we've ran, I think, 10 minutes over time, and we've gotten as many questions as we possibly could. So we really do appreciate you coming on. I want to finish on this note because I think it just sums up the class of this union. And there was a question asked by Darren earlier on, who had paid for his leave and then had been shielded. And we were able to put that question to Terry as DGSP, who gave Gary an answer and also a reassurance that we would seek it out. During that time, whilst Terry was then answered, we also emailed National Officer Carl Maiden, and Carl's, I can put on my screen now, Carl's copied Terry and I in. Carl was emailed you, Darren, and with the offer of assistance and the guarantee that the union will stand with you. So there you go. I don't think you get another union in the country who would have that sort of interaction with his members at that sort of speed. So from Terry and from myself, thanks. It's been a great session, and I'm sure we're going to do more and more of these. It's going to be a podcast tomorrow, so we'll have that link out. Get your colleagues listen to it at work as well. Really enjoyed it, and we'll catch you all later.
Cheers, everyone.